Well, welcome to another one of my LinkedIn Live sessions. This particular one is going to be focusing on chances that you as a job seeker should consider taking. In one way, it's a way to stand out from everybody else. And more importantly, we've got to get visibility when you're in a job search. And these are the kinds of things, again, just a few sampling of them. I'm going to share 7 things with you that you can do that maybe you aren't considering at this point. But if you don't make yourself visible and you aren't able to get people to look at your background, then the chances of getting interviews obviously goes down tremendously. So that's what the focus of this particular topic is all about. So let me go through a couple quick things and then we'll get right into the material. For those of you that may not yet be members of NSENG, I encourage you to do so because it's the largest job search group in the United States. We're adding 3 members every day, but most importantly, we have at least 1 member landing a job every day of the week. There are, with the membership, you're going to get access to 2 free webinar recordings from me. And of course, an opportunity to network with a really diverse audience. We've got people from all different positions, all different titles, and particularly all different industries. And this is one of the most important things of networking when you're in your job search. You don't want to hang around only with people that are absolutely just like you. Some of the greatest leads and opportunities are going to come from people that are way outside of your comfort zone. I do have access, for all of you to the 17 online webinar recordings that I've done on all different aspects of job search. So I encourage you to go to the website, sfdasfadsffsdsdf.com, and check out these 17 webinar recordings that may be of interest to you and maybe some areas where you could use some help. Each one of those are 90 minutes long. Then I've got 3-hour workshop recordings. Each one of these is very instructional, and they include my What the Hell approach to job search. This is a trademark that I've been granted from the U.S. Patent Department. I've got the second one is about maximizing the value of LinkedIn during your job search. I split the session up into 2 parts, really. One is about how to search engine optimize your profile so you get more views of your background. And the second is how to really use the platform in a more productive way. And then the third one's about how to create and implement an effective job search plan. Everybody needs to have one. Not everyone does one. And as a result, you aren't as conscious of making the best use of your time. Separate and apart from NSENG and our website, I do have a rather active NSENG LinkedIn group, and I encourage you to join that one as well. It's a great place, a very safe place where you can exchange ideas with other people that are in a job search. Also, we have advertisers that are posting positions there. The next event after today will be in 3 weeks on Wednesday, May 15th. Again, it'll be scheduled for about a half an hour, and it's going to be an open Q&A session on anything job search related. So I encourage you, if you do have some questions and you want me to try to prioritize some of them, email them to me at mgilbert@nsenginc.com. But you can always chat questions in and exchange information with other folks that are on the session with you. So let's talk about 7 specific things that you can implement immediately that in my mind, they're chances that are worth taking because I think they can make a big difference in your getting notoriety and recognition beyond all the other people that are trying to do exactly what you're trying to do. So these are the 7 that we're going to go through, and I'm going to dig into each one in much greater detail. And so the one thing I did want to mention to everybody is that I'm not going to be answering any chats during this session. There's too much material to cover and answer a lot of questions. But if you do have any questions later, please feel free to email me, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can with my perspective on some of the things that you may be wondering about. So with that in mind, one other important thing is that this session is being recorded by LinkedIn. So anybody that may be in a job search who couldn't join us today at this time, give them the link and they'll be able to watch a recording of this as soon as we're done. So move number 1, create small collaboration groups. These are groups of people that you want to surround yourself with, but they come from different job functions. You can create your own ad hoc groups. You can join NSENG and create multiple groups. But it's important that you interact with people that aren't necessarily from only finance or only marketing or only operations, because some of the greatest opportunities come from places that you would never expect it to come from. So what I encourage all of you to do is team up with 4, 5, 6, 7 other people who each come from different job functions that don't compete with you, and have an arrangement that when any of you come across an opportunity that you think might be of interest to somebody in the group who's got finance background, then you all have basically an ad hoc agreement that you're going to send all those leads over to the finance person. All those that are product management will go to that individual, and so on. This is a way you get 6 and 7 people looking after you and working on your behalf without them spending any amount of time. Because when you come into a job search, you're constantly coming across opportunities, many of which don't relate to you, but they do relate to somebody you know. And this is a great way to, create a very small network of people that all can look after everybody's interests. Second one, and this to me is a really important one, it's where I see a lot of people in job search coming up short, is because too many people think that the most important player on the company side is the talent acquisition team or the talent recruiter or HR. And if you're looking for a job in HR, then they are absolutely very important. But if you're not, and if you're looking for something in sales, marketing, operations, finance, legal, they are not the important players when it comes to getting interviews, because the important people are the people that have the ability to influence, the people that have the ability to make hiring decisions, and the people that own the budget. And we know that that typically is the hiring manager, potentially if they have the boss, and their peers who will also weigh in, because we know one single person isn't going to be the only person that you're likely to interview with. But you oftentimes will have a phone screen on the front end. But I can tell you, I have coached so many people who've been rejected by the applicant tracking system, which is nothing more than a piece of software. They get rejected within 10, 15, 20 minutes because there's not enough keyword matching taking place on your resume or your LinkedIn profile. And I'm still able to get them interviews because we get to the right people. And if you know how to use LinkedIn, and if you're a strong writer and can be very influential in your email cover letters, you can get interviews even when the tracking system has already said you're not somebody we want to talk to. So here's a quick and easy way that you can accomplish that. So one thing is writing cover letters. I am a big advocate of cover letters, essentially an email. This is the one opportunity you get to control your story, because typically a resume, particularly if it's 2 or 3 pages, it's got a lot of content. And if you've done a good job on loading up information and keywords into your LinkedIn profile, that has a lot of content to read as well. But the cover letter email is the one opportunity where you decide how much you want to share and what specifically you want to share with the people that are trying to fill this particular position. So in this case, I've put down here an example of somebody who's looking for a sales manager role. Okay, and what many people will do is they gravitate to the ATS, the applicant tracking system, or to the talent acquisition team. But my suggestion is go to the people that really are going to be influential on making this hiring decision. So in the case of somebody going after a sales management role, well, who's likely to be their boss? It's likely to be the director of sales or the VP of sales. Okay, but there are going to be other folks that are going to weigh in and likely be a part of the interview, canvassing process. Somebody from operations, someone from product development, someone from marketing, someone from finance. There may be 5 or 6 other people easily that you may have to interview with somewhere during the process as you're making your way through the process. But remember, companies are getting on average at least 100 resumes to every one of these jobs, even though our unemployment is at all-time lows for a very long time. There are great people still out of work. And if you wait too long, or you can't get the visibility to the right people, your chances of being, one of the folks that gets selected for an interview go down dramatically, because we know the best candidate does not always get the job. But the candidate who creates visibility and credibility for themselves with their audience and with the right audience are the ones that are likely to get a lot more time. The third one, when you're in a job interview, and I recognize that you're going to get asked a lot of different questions, and you can probably anticipate a lot of what those questions might be. But there is one important question that you should make sure you ask and ask it before the interview even starts. A lot of people don't seem to be comfortable with this because they think, well, if I'm somebody who's being interviewed, I have absolutely no control over the interview process, and you do. It's just up to you to take control of it. So there's a very important question that you should consider asking before the interview ever starts. And you particularly want to ask this of the hiring manager or that person's boss. So it goes like this. Before we get started, would you mind if I ask a quick question? And what I have found, and what I have found from people that I've coached, in more cases than not, the individual says, sure, go ahead. If they don't think that they have enough time for the interview, they might ask you to hold it to the end. But if they let you ask this question before the interview starts, it's going to make a significant difference in the way that you can perform. And here's how the question goes. What do you think are the 3 biggest challenges facing the individual that will be moving into this particular position that I'm interviewing for? The moment they give you that answer, it's the answers to the test. They've now told you 3 things that are going to weigh very heavy in the interviewing process and the selection of the candidate that's going to get chosen for the role. And now you can pivot from 1 to 2 to 3 of those, throughout the part of your interview where you're trying to show proof that you're the right person for this. But they're telling you up front that these things are going to weigh very heavily in the selection process. And in doing so, you now have to be prepared for stories, because storytelling is a great important part of any good job interview. But you got to be able to come back to stories that you've done, things that in the past relate to these 3 biggest challenges. Now, they won't be the only ones, but the easiest way to set up a great story is a beginning, middle, and an end, right? So what's at the beginning? What was the challenge or problem that I had to address? In the middle, what were the actions that I took? And the ending is, what was the impact of what I did? What was the result? How did I make a difference? And if you approach an interview like this, your stories are going to be a lot more engaging, but most importantly, they're going to be right on point, because they've asked you a specific question for a specific reason. You now answer with proof. The proof is the story. And so that's why you want to ask this question up front, because if you can get somebody who's interviewing you to give you the things that they think are most important. And by the way, it may differ from person to person, right? If you're interviewing with a marketing director or a VP of marketing versus somebody who was the VP of sales or the VP of finance, what they think is important, might be different from the hiring manager. But that's okay. You can tailor your responses to each of these people who've each given you what might be 3 different challenges. But the preparation is really the difference that it's going to make here. But got to ask that question up front. And if you don't get time in the beginning of the interview, there's still nothing wrong with asking it at the end. Number 4, be open to project work. Project work is absolutely important. It's something you need to do. It's something that everybody, should be open to, because nobody wants to have a prolonged period of time when you're unemployed. Okay, it's no fun, right? But if you start to check, the interview process, and you find that that things aren't going the way you had hoped they would, don't hesitate to potentially ask them for, if they're open for a try and buy opportunity, an opportunity where you can potentially, provide your services for a fee on various projects that they need to get done, but they simply just don't have the resources in-house to get them done now. A lot of great things come from this. One thing is, it shows that you're flexible and you're thinking out of the box. It also will give you immediate income for the project that they assign to you. It opens up the door in a much more powerful way than you can otherwise get that door open. But a few more things come from this. And I've seen this with a lot of folks. I've done it even myself. That if the company hires you for a specific project and things go well, when that project's over, it could lead to a full-time role, because now they've had an opportunity to see how you meld with the organization, how you are, working with the team of people that you might work with on in a real full-time position. But at the same time, it gives you an opportunity to see, is this the kind of place I want to work? Okay, so every interview is bi-directional. It's not just you receiving questions, but at the same time, when you start to take on project work, if they're open to it, it'll give you a great opportunity to see whether or not this is a place where I could see myself staying for a long period of time. And at the same time, as you interview with other companies, you're going to have a little bit more confidence because you can tell them, I've been taking on project work. Here's the kind of things that I'm doing. It gives you yet another story to show how you are desirable to other companies for the kinds of roles that you're trying to fill. Number 5, when you get a job offer, don't assume that it's strictly black and white. Okay. Almost every job offer has a salary range associated with it. And I can tell you, when I worked at Motorola for many years, we had salary ranges. Everybody was applying for a grade, okay, and everybody had a different grade level. But the ranges in each grade level could be $40,000 or $50,000 in many cases. Could be more in other cases as you move up further in the company. So don't assume that the offer that you've been given is the only thing that you should or could consider. There are many other things that you can put out there to the company that's made you this offer, and potentially get a lot more than what they put out to you initially. Okay, but you've got to ask, and it's important on how you ask. It's not a demand. It's not saying, if I don't get the following things, I'm not coming on board. No, and of course, you don't want to jeopardize the opportunity that has been given to you, but you want to indicate to them first, you know what? Very excited about the opportunity. I greatly appreciate the offer. I was wondering if there might be any flexibility whatsoever when it comes to the salary range, or might there be incentives? Could there be a signing bonus, which are very easy for companies to give away because your salary isn't going to be increased by the bonus. It's just a one-time hit for a company. Certain companies are going to be able to provide you with stock options, whether they're privately held or if they are a publicly held company. You might ask for a performance review within 6 months, as opposed to having to wait a year and maybe get a merit increase over a shorter period of time. You might feel that, you know what, they've given me a manager title, but what I'd really like to have is a director's title because that sets me up for my next move whenever I decide to change companies. You can ask for things like that. Of course, hybrid and remote working situations are very present today. We find in a lot of states across the country, many people are still working from home. Okay, and so this could be something that it might be of interest to you. Maybe you come into the office 1 or 2 times a week if that's important. You could also ask for additional vacation time. Maybe the offer came with 2 weeks. You wanted to get 3 weeks. That has a very significant value to you and to your family. Might be athletic memberships, but this last one's really important. It deals with the idea of termination. If you are terminated without cause, and this is going to apply to anybody who is given an employment agreement. Okay, and it tends to be more senior positions, director, VP, and C-level positions. So if you have an employment agreement, it's likely to have a termination clause in it, and it will stipulate conditions under which you are not entitled to any money the moment you are let go. And you want to make sure that you've got something there for you, regardless of anything other than an illegal act. So that's why the definition of cause is so important in employment agreements, that it should be, whether it's embezzling or doing something illegal, fraudulent, those are reasons for cause. And you should be terminated if you committed any of those acts. But performance related should not be a cause definition, because performance is very subjective. Okay, and I'm sure there's many of you on this call today that have been let go from a company that you feel you were very unjustly, terminated. So if you do get presented with an employment agreement, make sure there's a termination clause, and that the definition of termination, that without any severance, and severance could be a month, it could be 10 months. Okay, that is all negotiable. But you want to make sure that cause is defined as something that is an illegal act and not something tied to performance. Number 6, you've got to pursue the hidden job market. There's so many jobs out there that are not online. They're not sitting on LinkedIn. They're not in Indeed or Career Builder or ZipRecruiter. Many of them are sitting in someone's head. They just haven't put it out there yet. But those are jobs. Those are jobs that they're planning to put out there. So wouldn't it be great if you could circumvent the system and get right to those those people that are thinking about posting a job? A lot of companies are relying on their own employees, to make recommendations of potential candidates. And that's why you'll see that a relatively small percentage of the jobs that are filled because of a job posting. The greatest portion of jobs, and again, I put these up as estimates. They've come from many different sources, but 45% on average coming from networking, another 25% when you get somebody inside a company who becomes your internal advocate and champion, then they start to refer you as a candidate. And what's the incentive for these people? Well, on average, it's probably $1,000 to $2,000. Okay, you could be putting money in the pocket of somebody who's inside the company that if they recommend you for a job, you interview and you get that job. Well, they're going to get rewarded. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of companies, place so much emphasis on people inside the company that have made an internal recommendation for somebody. And this is where your network is going to play such an important role. But notice that the smallest percentage of jobs, and I may be over generous here, 5% or less are filled by external executive search firms or headhunters. It's simply because most companies can't afford at any significant level to hire a lot of jobs where they're going to be paying the recruiting firm anywhere from 30 to 33% of the person's first year salary as a reward for having brought in and gotten them a very good qualified candidate that they ultimately made an offer to. It's just too pricey. And that's why most of the good executive search firms, they are all retained. They are getting the exclusive for finding candidates for that job. And it's important to also understand that they are particularly being hired to fill VP and C-level positions. Because if the candidate, if you have many candidates that are at, middle or lower level positions, you can't afford to be spending that, that 1/3 of their first year's salary for filling a position. Most companies are going to use it for the most important roles in the company. So I can't say enough about networking and setting yourself up for success by having a really expansive network of contacts within your network. The fact is that you control how many LinkedIn connections you have. And I joined LinkedIn very early on back in 2004. At that time, LinkedIn was not as widely used, but today I sit on 30,000 LinkedIn connections, and I can say with confidence, I've probably never met 28,000 of those people. But that's okay, because everybody who is a connection has potential value to you. They can introduce you to people in their network. So when you connect with me, you're getting connectivity to 30,000 people if we don't have any redundancy. But those secondary connections are so valuable and so much more plentiful in numbers. And so it's really important that you're always growing your network. LinkedIn is so easy to do that. And of course, you can do filtered searches on LinkedIn that will enable you to get into companies that don't have advertised jobs. Because I can tell you, if you haven't put together a target company list, you're really, shortchanging your search. You should have a target company list of 30 or more companies at any given point in time. And then you can go into LinkedIn and find people that you may be connected to that are working in some of those companies who, by the way, don't have advertised jobs, but it's a way to get introduced in there. Or it might be that you've got a connection to somebody who knows somebody inside a company, and they can make an introduction for you. Building up internal champions and advocates inside a company is so important to the job search. And if you're spending the bulk of your time answering online ads and taking this as it's a quantity play, it's not the best use of your time. Because answering online ads, it might take up about 10% of your work week, but the rest of your time, in the job search has got to be occupied with growing your network, identifying more and more companies that are of interest to you, and finding people that can potentially make introductions. Now, there's nothing wrong with sending out cold emails. Okay, I've done it many times myself, and I write these for a lot of people that I'm coaching. And the fact is, if you've got a well-written email cover letter that connects the dots between achievements in your background and the most important requirements in the job, that really rings through very strong. Because if you've done it there, well, then maybe she can do it here. And those kinds of things, particularly if they have metrics or some measurability behind them, it'll make you a much stronger candidate, and you're going to get better luck with your interviews in the process. So please don't spend laborious hours answering online ads. Spend a lot more of your time, getting people in your network, growing your network, and utilizing and leveraging them as ways to get in. One of the greatest features on LinkedIn is the connections of filtering process, because well, I might have 30,000 LinkedIn connections. You're not going to go into my profile and start looking at all 30,000 people. In fact, LinkedIn won't even share all of those with you. But you can filter on anybody's connections who is a first degree connection to you. And so you could say, you know what, I want, John Smith's connections. He's got 5,000 of them, but I only want those that are located in Boston and New York. I want those that have a VP title, and I want those that are in marketing or sales. And of course, that number of 5,000 LinkedIn connections will come down very significantly, but it will be very focused. It's going to address exactly the audience that you're trying to address. And we do this with products today. We get very targeted in the products, and our messaging that we're trying to sell to the audience that we want to reach. And the same is true of you. Okay. You are now a product. It's being launched into the marketplace. And that's why I say 90% of the job search is marketing. You've got to be able to position, package, message, and target yourself to specific companies and specific people inside those firms. The last item in here is that you've got to be willing to be bold. You've got to be willing to take chances. You got to come into interviews as though you are the expert. You got to be confident, okay? And confidence is a big weighing element in any job interview, okay? I myself have interviewed hundreds of people for jobs that I was looking to fill, but I always put a tremendous amount of emphasis on their presentation. How do they present themselves? When I ask them, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself? How did they respond to that? Because you've got to be able to exude interest in the people that are sitting across the table from you, or they're sitting across the phone line or across the Zoom, picture. And that means you've got to be willing to take chances. I've got, this 3-hour webinar recording on my What the Hell approach to job search. And the concept behind it is, what the hell do you have to lose by doing things that other job seekers are not doing? And this is where you stand out. And the fact is that a lot of competition. There's a lot of great people that are out looking for jobs. And there's a very high percentage of people who are employed that are also looking for a better job. So don't assume that it's only the 4% of people that are currently reported as being unemployed are the only ones looking for a job. A much bigger percentage of this country's population are currently employed, but they're not happy. And so the game is, how do I make my presence known? How do I get people to know and recognize who I am, and what value I can bring? So please keep that in mind. Before we close it out, let me just summarize real quickly the 7 chances that I think are worth taking. Creating these small ad hoc collaboration groups can be very beneficial. Place more emphasis on getting to the hiring manager, that person's peers, the people that have the influence, that have the budget, and can make decisions. The third one, ask that question before the interview starts. What are the 3 things, the 3 challenges that you think are absolutely critical to the person that's going to move into this role? Be open to project work, okay? It can be a great way to really lift up your confidence, but it also brings some income in, and at the same time could be the segue to getting into a full-time position. If you've been given a job offer, don't think it's just that, take it or walk away. No, there's flexibility, okay? It's all in how you deliver your message in asking for some potential consideration, okay? Got to pursue that hidden job market. You can see that, there are more jobs that are hidden than jobs that are posted. And your willingness to be bold and different from other people is so important in the job search, because you've got to stand out. Before we part, I just want to share with you a couple quick reminders. If you've not yet joined NSENG, please go to our website, take advantage of the free membership. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, send me a LinkedIn invitation. Also join the NSENG LinkedIn group. There's jobs that are being posted there by some of our advertisers, but it's a great place to collaborate and share ideas with other people that are in job search. We've got over 3,000 members that have landed, and they are still very active in the group. Check out my videos and my podcast interviews. I've got a lot of those under the About section of the website. Look at the library of webinar and workshop recordings. And if you are considering the possibility of working with a coach, please feel free to reach out to me for an exploratory coaching call. A lot of the things that that people are wondering about and afraid to ask, well, if you're one of those people, this next session is absolutely the right place for you because this is an opportunity for you to ask something that you didn't think you were going to be able to address. And so I encourage you to put down Wednesday, May 15th at noon Central Time to join us. And if you're looking to work with a coach, please feel free to send me an email. Be happy to have an exploratory call with you and see if there's things that I can help you with. Again, I appreciate you all for taking so much time with us. Again, if you do have questions, feel free to reach out to me. But in the meantime, I wish you all the best, with your search. Don't need to go through it alone. There's a lot of people out there that can be very helpful to you. It's up to you to ask for the help. Take care and all the best.